Hello, and welcome to some quick beginner's tips for playing the game Stellaris. Not going to be a tutorial. The game does come with a tutorial, and it's a decent one. As far as I remember, there's no gaps in it. So if you're brand new to the game, I do suggest you go ahead and play the tutorial. Having said that, I do a decent amount of Stellaris on my channel, and I do enjoy the game enough to play it again and again and again. But when I do play, I always seem to get the same questions over and over and over again. Generally being, what should I do in the beginning phases? How do I build my planet? And how should I design my ships? So that is what this video is going to go over. Just some quick tips and general guidelines. You don't have to stick to these, but if you're a first-time player, they are kind of good things to go with. Okay? Before we even begin, big 3 tips. You're going to lose your first few games. Something will go wrong. You'll start a death spiral of some sort. You'll make a misplay. Your empire will be wiped out. Something will happen. That is okay. It's a game. Relax. Enjoy. Expect yourself to fail a few times. That's good. 2, there are many styles of play. I tend to be a turtler, and I like to do tech. I will fight when I have to, but I tend not to be very aggressive. You may play differently. Find the style that works for you. Feel free to experiment. That is the beauty of this game. There are dozens of ways to experiment. And my 3rd tip is, just right off the bat, don't install mods until you've beaten the game at least once on with all default settings. Like, made it to the end of Game Crisis and beaten it. Then you can start messing with mods. Or at the very least, wait till you've played 2 or 3 games and you feel you have a good grasp for the basics. Then feel free to install all the mods you want. Alright? I would also suggest the United Nations of Earth is a perfect, reasonable species to start with your first few games. They're balanced for that. When you're making your first few games, the default settings are best. So abandon gateways at 1, that's default. I would suggest turning advanced AI starts off and turning Caravanners off, and turning Iron Man mode off for your first few games, just so you can save at whatever point you want, make a decision, and go, you know what? That was a bad decision. Let me go back, figure out go back a save, figure out what I did wrong, and see if I can make a better decision and figure out why that is a better decision. Just for your first few games. And then after that, feel free to mess with the settings. Like I said, I prefer to have my gateways all the way up to 5x. I love having gateways everywhere. I've had a lot of fun games with gateways max, hyperlane density low, set to the lowest setting. That makes for interesting games, or can. But you know, like I said, experiment, find the settings you like best, feel free to play the game on that, go for the achievements. They can be fun. I'm going to go ahead and load up a beginning game right here. Default settings. Right here, beginning phase. Default settings. But like I said, the Caravanners are off and the advanced AI is off. Everything else is default. So this is where we start. And the first thing you're going to notice is there's a lot of stuff up here. You know what? Take the time, read the tooltips. This game has tooltips for everything. It has a pause feature. Feel free to use it. Take the time, read the tooltips. That's what they're there for. Use them. As long as you just try to keep everything reasonably in the positive, you'll be fine. Don't be afraid to use the market. Feel free to set up monthly trades. It's all good. Just, you know, and also feel free to experiment, but, you know, just, that's all you gotta do. again, these are just tips for very beginners. So we're just going to go over these really quick. We're going to start on this side. Energy powers everything. Minerals for building things. Food for pop growth. Consumer goods for keeping things running. Alloys for building ships, stations, and more things. Influence for enacting edicts and political stuff and claiming stuff. Unity for traditions and relics. Traditions and relics if you get them. Research to make research. Rare resources for upgrades. Sprawl, which we're gonna skip but get back to. Envoys for intergalactic diplomacy. Population is your population. Number of star bases. Number of naval capacity. If you left is current, right in all cases is for these is max. You know, +3, that's how much I'm making a month. +12, that's how much I'm making a month. Okay? If you go over the limit on capacity and naval capacity, there are penalties. Ships cost more, that sort of thing. It's okay to go over a little, but if you start going over too much, it cripples you. The same thing with Empire Sprawl. They expect you to go over, but not too much. Okay? If my max is 50 and I'm at 60 or 70, not that big a deal. But in fact, if I'm at 200 over 50, it's crippling to the point that you've essentially lost the game. As far as I am aware. I know the wiki says, if you check the current wiki, I believe it says for every point over, you get a 0.3 increase to a bunch of stuff. I think tech costs, plane costs, and a few other things. But I believe they've added breakpoints. So if you're, like I said, if you're 70 over, not that big a deal. 20% over, 30% over, not that big a deal. But if you're 200 out of 50, it's not. I don't think it's a 0.3 cost. I think there are breakpoints so that the increase gets worse and worse. They're very large breakpoints, and they should be difficult to hit. But I believe they are there. I could be wrong, and if I am, I apologize, but act like they are. And if they aren't in the game, they honestly should be added. Alright, the easiest way to take care of Empire Sprawl is to build buildings. The administrative offices. Just keep that in mind. Go over a little, but not too much. And we're gonna play for a few minutes on the beginning phases. You're gonna see I'm gonna jump up to speed 3. That's fine. You can adjust it. Whatever you're comfortable playing at. I'm going to tell you when choosing your first science, admin AI, number 1 pick. Every time. If it's not offered, go for, quantum theory. If neither of them are offered, go for whichever one's the cheapest. We're going to pick up admin AI. Here, generally going, planetary unification is your top pick. If that's not offered, biodiversity. If neither of them are offered, whatever tech happens to be the cheapest. For engineering research, either nanomechanics or whichever one's the cheapest. Engineering you can get away with. So I think there's one for mining, or I think there might be one for a cheap 2001 for starbase mining. So these. The mining stations. If that pops up, feel free to take that, but generally speaking, your best bet is just to get the boost to engineering research. Nano machine. Right? No, we're gonna speed along here. I'm just gonna let things tick on. The first thing you usually want to do, just go ahead. Oh, I don't have a mining station. I don't have the minerals for a mining station. That's weird. Usually I have the minerals for a mining station. Don't worry about not having buildings.
Construction
We'll get to that in a few, but your first few steps, consider buildings to put here that you might need. I would say don't build any districts, but you want to focus on mining stations. The other thing you want to do is queue up surveying. Generally, you want to survey as quickly to choke points as possible. So we're going to go ahead and set our survey up pattern like this. Fine, and we're always going to immediately build a science ship right away to get more surveying going. And when you survey, you always want to head for choke points. You can always backfill later. Also, you want to usually 3 to 4 survey ships is enough. If you feel you need more, go ahead and make more. Construction ships, you usually want a couple of those as well, so we have enough. I had already queued up the minerals. We're going to go ahead and grab that energy one as well. Actually, it should be by itself. Yes, so we're just going to queue it up. And I'm doing this by right-clicking and selecting one of the options. Remember what I said about don't worry about using the market? Go ahead, use it. You should be positive, so you shouldn't have to worry about keeping too big a balance in the early game. Later game, you might want to keep balances, but early game, don't zero them out. But, if you drop a little low, as long as you're trying to keep things positive, it should be fine. So we've got our second science ship. We're going to get this going. Generally speaking, you want your side ships to have stuff like roamer. I don't see it here. Things to do with anomalies. Things to do with archaeology surveys, things like that. So we're going to queue him up this direction. We're going to let them go. If I wanted to, I would make a third ship and get everything they'd miss, but I really don't care right now. This is just to give you an idea of what to do. Okay?
Construction completed.
If you've got the energy, and we appear to have the energy, I do recommend grabbing research stations as well, because the faster tech is economy and tech are kings in this, so you do have to keep that in mind. When it comes to anomalies, and we should be getting one here soon, or relatively, might take a minute or two. Hold on. Although it is randomized, so maybe not. But generally speaking, for anomalies, I recommend that when they pop up, if they are as long as it says routine difficulty and the research time is 180 or less, then by all means hit that research button. If it doesn't say that, pass it, come back at it later when your science ships have leveled up. So we've got our first tradition here, and I just want to cover this real quick. So, generally speaking, it is agreed that the 2 strongest traditions to start are either discovery or expansion. Because that's what you're going to be focused on in the early game. After that, go with whatever you think you need the most. Again, take the time to read the tooltips, figure out which one you want. Okay? So I almost always go discovery. If I happen to get a lot of planets, I may go expansion. We're going to go ahead and draft discovery. Whichever one you don't pick first between discovery and expansion. So if I pick discovery first, my second one, always expansion. And then after that, I wing it. If I'm playing an aggressive game, I'll grab supremacy. If I'm more concerned about infrastructure, I'll grab prosperity or harmony. If I want to try to set up a federation quickly, I'll grab diplomacy. I've never really played with vassals, so domination's always my last choice. But that's me. Again, experiment, play the game, have fun. Figure out, but generally speaking, you go discovery or expansion first. Whichever one you choose first, the other one goes second. So, this is my first one. It's going to be my second one. I'm not going to take the time to get Ascension perks. But there are these, every time you finish one of these traditions, you get to choose a perk. If you're not sure what to pick, Technological Ascendancy increases your all research speed by a flat 10%. 1 vision increases the unity gain, allowing you to get traditions faster. Or Imperial Prerogative increases your admin cap by 20%, and that will stay useful the entire game. All 3 of them are good first or second picks. Okay? You don't have to go them, but they are pretty strong recommend. Okay. I almost always go Technological Ascendancy. There have been a few times where I go Imperial Prerogative, but I like to grab that science boot. That is me. Okay? After you pick your first one, after that, pick whatever one you feel you need the most. You know, take the time to read what each one does. You know, figure out a plan. Like, I want to become a master builder. Galactic Wonders, so I get access to ring rolls and decompressors and dice-spheres. That sounds cool. It's probably gonna be. I'm probably not gonna get that till probably I have to pick my 4th perk. But you know what? I know I want to save space for it. If I'm getting this, I probably also want master builders, so I can build these things faster and more of them at the same time, sort of thing. So that's what you do. You go through. Kind of figure out I want to go robotic. I want to turn my people into robotics. Alright, that means I'm going to want the flesh is weak and synthetic evolution. So, I know I'm grabbing these 2. That sort of thing. That's what you're looking to do for Ascension. Okay, for situations, so we've got, consumer goods production. Oh, it's already +6 a month. I'm not sure how that's gonna trigger, or even if it does. Meeting unknown contacts, like I said, anomalies popping up, those all go in here. Unless there is a timer, the only ones you should rush are when you meet a new species. Do those ones immediately. Anything after that, whenever you feel like doing them. Okay? Unless there's a timer, in which case you should probably do it immediately. But that is generally what you do for situations. Right? So those are generally the beginning phases. Then you're expanding, you're working on infrastructure, and you meet new species, and that sort of thing. So now we're going to jump to setting up our first planet. So we're going to go ahead and load up a game right here, Building Planets. There we go, and we're going to jump to Alpha Centauri. So you can see at this point in the game, I just want to show real quick. I've done some expanding, I've found some planets, I've got some situation logs, like I said. If it's not, I've met a new species, what are they? I'll come back and do them. You can see I'm trying to expand to choke points as quick as I can. I can always backfill. So we've got our first colony. And like I said, one of the most common question is, well, how do I build a planet? Well, sprawl counts. Every district adds to it. Every system, every colony, every population. Like I said, they expect you to go over a little. So keep that in mind. But they don't expect you to ignore it. So knowing that districts add to it, you only build districts when you need to. So your first district you're always going to build immediately is a city district. On building a city district, housing will be okay. It's going to add a job. After that, I always build 2 districts immediately. I sit down and go, okay, well, I'm doing fine on energy. I'm doing okay on food. Minerals is fine, but you know what? Well, let me check my market real quick. I'm also selling 10 food. So you know what? I want to boost, we'll say, minerals. I will build a mineral district. And that is it. I will not build any more. You do not max them out. You build districts as needed. The other thing I suggest is, as you need jobs, your first 4 districts, if possible, should be one of each. And then as you go later into the game, then you specialize. Okay? Maybe I'll hit a point in the game where, I'm negative in minerals, positive in everything else. So I'll just make all the mining districts here. All the energy districts. Okay? The other thing to keep in mind is there's nothing wrong with making a district, deleting it, and swapping in another district. That's good. Go ahead. Replace, demolish as you feel you need it on your planets. That is perfectly okay. There is nothing wrong with that. I fully believe they expect you to. The other thing is this is a colony right now, so the AI will assign the designation of whether it's an urban world, a mining world, an agri world. Don't let the AI do it. So let's say I'm going to turn this into a mining world. I'm going to select this because it gives a bonus. Mining districts build faster, and the output is better. For an agri world, it's food. I'm not going to go over these. For a rural world, it's a little of each. And this is usually a good one to start with. And then as you get later in the game, maybe you go back and turn it into a mining world. That sort of thing. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that either. As far as buildings go, okay, there are two schools of thought. Okay, the majority of people say pick a planet, specialize it. So a person will put down, this has to be there. Usually this, if you have it, is either gene clinics or building robots. That's tech, which I don't have, I believe. I do not have it. And then you always want at least, on any planet, a single commercial zone would take care of all the amenities on a planet as long as you upgrade. I've never seen it not handle it. Alright? And then after that, what a lot of people do is like, alright, every other slot is going to be all these slots. All admin buildings. So I don't have to worry about sprawl. Or all research to power through that. Or all alloy foundries. That sort of thing. Again, you notice they have an upkeep. There's production. Do keep that in mind. Build buildings as needed. Which works. And it allows for a very... you hit a high output very quickly. Like, if I were to max out all of these on admin buildings, it would give me, I think, a cap of, I want to say, like, 2,500 Empire Sprawl. Which is a lot, and you will never hit that. You should not hit that in a single game. However, the downside is if I go to war and someone sieges that planet or takes it, my economy's, my everything's gonna collapse. If I do an alloy planet and someone takes that planet, boom! Everything collapses. So if you lose a single planet going that way, it pretty much just starts a death spiral you can't get out of. The way I do it, which I know is in the minority, is these first 8 are always going to be the same buildings. Generally, the first thing you build is a gene clinic or robot population, whichever works, or both, up to you. And then, in order of what I need the most, either a commercial zone, a civilian industry, or an admin office. Eventually you will have one of each. But if I'm running low, like right now I'm running low on Empire Sprawl, so it would be Gene Clinic, admin office, and then the next one would be, alright, well, what do I need more? You're probably going to need a commercial zone or civilian industry, that sort of thing. And I make sure that I have the basic 8. So that is a Gene Clinic, which I do eventually replace, a commercial zone, a civilian industry, a single admin office, this is all at least, an alloy plant, a culture building, a research building, and a stronghold. With all of those first 8, you will build a strong empire, and you can use the last 8, maybe you decide to double up or triple up on alloys, or quadruple up, or however you want to do it. You know, maybe you hit late game and you're like, well, I really don't care about research anymore. I'm doing the repeatables. I'll switch out the research. That is fine. But for the majority of the game, these first ones are going to those buildings. So again, that's Gene Clinic, Commercial Zone, 1 Civilian Industry, 1 Admin Office, 1 Alloy Plant, 1 Culture, 1 Research, 1 Stronghold. Generally keeping in mind what you need at any given time, but those are always the first 8 buildings on any planet. And the upside is, the downside is it's not as high output, but it's easier to balance. And if I lose a planet, everything isn't going to collapse. I could probably lose half an empire and still be fine. You know, that sort of thing. The only other thing to keep in mind is if we go to population, and we're going to go do this on the capital, is as you can see, they're divided into ruler jobs, specialist jobs, and workers. And it fills up top to bottom, not bottom to top. So, you know, if there's a vacant ruler, that gets filled first, and it works its way down. So if I have a lot of building space, right, and I throw down, we'll say, 8 admin buildings, which is a specialist job, all my workers will immediately upgrade to being a specialist, and it will screw over your production. So that's why you only build buildings as needed. There is a workaround. If you go in and expand it, you can minus or plus individual jobs. So I'm closing these down. They'll go into unemployment, but if for some reason too many have jumped up, it'll take time, but they'll work their way down to being workers. And that is always it is better to have unemployed population working their way down to workers than putting yourselves into the negative and spiraling out of control. So we're going to keep those back in. Alright, and now we're going to jump to shipbuilding. Second thing is, how do I build a fleet? So early game, I will tell you this. First of all, you want to unclick auto generate, interceptor. You want a regular interceptor. Make sure that auto upgrade is clicked. Shield, want armor, mass drivers, and laser. Done. Okay? And then you want a missile variant. Mass driver, one nuclear missile, shields, one armor. Go ahead, throw in a reactor booster, that's up to you. We're going to call this one missile corvette. Boom. And you want 10 of each. Okay? When you get to late game, you will have more options. I'm going to show you that now. This is a game very late in the game. Letting this load up. Hold on. Taking longer to load because a lot more is happening in this particular game. We're going to zoom out. So this is... There we go. So this is me over here. You can see we've covered a lot of things. We've got part of a war of heaven over here. We've got the endgame event over here. You know, my planets, again, you notice, like I said, 1 fortress, 1 admin building, 1 research, 1 alloy, 1 commercial, 1 civilian, 1 commercial megaplex, that sort of thing. And this is late game, so a few planets I have gotten rid of the culture and just decided to specialize. You know, switch buildings out, that sort of thing. Again, they expect you to do that. But you notice, again, districts. You know, I've chosen to focus districts. You know, that's perfectly fine. In some cases, I have gone back and, you know, deleted districts to create new districts and that sort of thing. So that is perfectly okay. we're gonna focus on ships more. So ship designer. Link. So you've got corvettes. Don't worry about the weapons right now, but like I said, you've got regular interceptors, missile corvettes, picket destroyers, gun destroyers, which have sections. Once you get to destroyers, they have sections, cruisers, and battleship. As far as things go, purpose build your ships. So if we go to the broadside cruiser, it is all broadside. It's not a mix of broadside and artillery, or broadside and missile. It is just straight broadside. Already is as much artillery as you can. Gun destroyer is gun destroyer. Don't mix and match. Purpose build. Right? Usually you want, for destroyers, a gunship and a picket ship. You may not use this. That is fine. Even if all you have is only gunships, just make sure you use them. For cruisers, you want a mix of basically ship of the lines, the AI, artillery, carriers, and missiles, and the same thing with battleships. Carriers, artillery, and ship of the lines. Okay? For weapons, again, take the time to read tooltips, but what you're paying attention to is the bonuses and negatives. So you see this one does extra to shields and hull, weak versus armor. This one is weak versus shields, but does extra damage to armor and hull. You're paying attention to the bonuses. The cooldown. So this has a 5-second, we'll say, fire rate. You know, this is 6 seconds. This is 4 seconds, so you got to pay attention to that. You want to pay attention to the range. Because if you're using a range, we'll say 20 weapon, but your AI is set to, you know, artillery range 80, that weapon is being wasted. So you want to try to balance the weapon ranges with whatever AI you have set into this combat computer slot. Okay? Average damage, you want to pay attention to, and you want to pay attention to the slot size you're in. Right? This is not explained anywhere in any tooltip. This is something that goes on under the hood. But large weapon slots have accuracy penalties and damage penalties against small ships, so corvettes. Small weapon slots have accuracy bonuses and damage bonuses versus small ships, but negatives versus large ships. And the medium is what you see is what you get. They're your all-arounders. So, you know, this Corvette is great at taking out small ships because it's all small slots. Let's see if I can find. This artillery cruiser is going to suck versus small ships because this gets a negative versus small ships. This gets a negative versus small ships. And even though this is, you know, medium, it's still not the best accuracy or damage versus small ships, sort of thing. So you do want to pay attention to slots. You want small ships, you want medium ships, those are destroyers, and you want large ships. So basically, corvettes count as small ships, destroyers count as medium ships, everything cruiser size and above counts as large. Okay. You definitely want to, as far as weapons go, you want to replace lasers as quick as you can with plasma weapons, because they both do the same damage to shields, but plasma weapons get a bonus to armor and hull. And it's the same range and everything else is pretty much there. Or missiles, you want at least, the reason why I have so you notice I've got swarmers. These whirlwind missiles are part of the swarmer missile line. You want to use them. If all you have is your standard Marauder missiles or torpedoes, they will be intercepted by PDF. The whole point of swarmer missiles and whirlwind missiles is to overload point defense for your fighters and other missiles to get through, and they are decently effective at the job. Okay? So you do want to use those. For defense, you want an equal mix of shields and armor. So if we go to here, okay? Alright, if you get any crystal forged plating, you want a mix of each. Okay? If you can't do a mix, I usually recommend, like on cruisers, 3 shields, 3 armor, 2 forged plating is fine. But you're looking to have balanced defenses. Alright? For PDF, for the point defense, so you'll notice this is 70% at 5% accuracy. This is point defense. Tracking 30%. So accuracy is how often they hit. Tracking completely negates invasion. Is how it reads. I'm not sure how to calculate that out. But basically, theoretically this point defense, because the tracking is so low, yeah, against a fighter with high evasion, 80% evasion, it will hit a few times, but it's not going to hit. So you want point defense versus missiles, and you want flak versus fighters. Because that flacking has a tracking of 70%, which means it negates 80% of the 70%, like just flat out. That evasion versus a fighter drops down to like 10 or 20%. Okay? So keep that in mind as well. And for fleet composition at later levels, a good place to start from is 20 corvettes, 10 regular, 10 missile, 15 gun destroyers, 5 pickets, as the AI won't use missiles, but they will use, I mean, again, all these tips are for AI. It will use fighters, a few fighters. So keep that in mind. A decent amount of, and then after that, so 20 corvettes, 20 destroyers, and then after that, you want to lean heavily into cruisers and battleships. I like to do a reasonable balance of broadside and other, and battleship class, so frontline battleship and other, I find works well. So there you go, some general tips, some ideas, again, for beginning players, just good places to start from. But as always, experiment, have fun, play the game. It is a great game, and I hope this helped. As always, feel free to leave a like or subscribe or follow on YouTube. Feel free to leave a comment on whether this helped or not, and I hope it did. I have no problem redoing this, so feel free to leave a comment, maybe saying, hey, maybe, mention this a little more. Or if you have any further questions, leave them in a comment. I have no problem doing another tips video. In addition to that, feel free to come by and swing by every Monday through Friday when I stream live on Twitch. I'm usually playing a game. It may not always be Stellaris, but if you want to ask questions about Stellaris, feel free to. If you want to just hang out, that is good. I encourage conversation of all types. Or if you want to ask questions about whatever game I happen to be playing, that is encouraged too. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been helpful. I hope this encourages you to go out and play the game. I hope this makes the game easier for you to learn, but not necessarily to master, because that should take time. Thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day.